Good afternoon and welcome to Rhyme of the Times. Just 2 weeks behind now. This is Rhyme of the Times for week ending the 11th of March 2023. Rishi's plan for small boats may attract many votes, but it doesn't float Gary's boat, which in turn got the BBC's goat, whose decision stuck in many throats. The, quote, woke brigade, unquote, changed what Fleming wrote. James Bond fans take note. In January, Sunak talked of bringing in laws that would mean the UK could slam its doors in the faces of those that came illegally, along with the means to eject them speedily. And this week we heard more about that vision as it comes close to reaching its fruition. And it seems this might have been Tory politicians following some sort of instinctive intuition. Because from YouGov and other such polls, the British public back their plan on the whole. There are, though, many people who opine that the majority are just immoral or supine. The tone is wrong, and they also assert that the policy cannot legally work. Match of the Day anchor Gary Lineker showed he clearly is no auntie-arse licker. He waded into the argument on Twitter, referring to 30s Germany under Hitler. Many understood what he was trying to say, even if it was in an overblown way. Overblown may be, but it wouldn't blow over. As the week ended, there was no sign of closure. Match of the Day was reduced to half an hour as Gary showed the Beeb he held all the power. They'd suspended him for breaching their rules, so many of his colleagues went and downed tools. Match of the Day had match action and crowd noises, but no pundits or commentators to add their voices. Football on 5 Live was also decimated as Tim Davie frantically negotiated. The Director General of the BBC generally lacked direction from what we could see. Do BBC's impartiality rules still count when the comments appeared on a private account? It seems the blurred line had once again been breached between what is corporate and personal free speech. Meanwhile, blooming in the capital of France, a blooming wonderful Anglo-Franco bromance. On Thursday, Sunak went to the City of Love and treated Emmanuel like he's above. With his host, he seemed completely at ease. Compared to Truss and Johnson, it was chalk and cheese. And so it seems they were able to agree how to stop small boats coming across the sea. Cross-border cooperation along with more dough were needed to stop the trail of human cargo. Harry and Meghan have received an invitation to attend Harry's granddad's coronation. But after their Frogmore Cottage eviction, there's considerable royal family friction. Although their attendance is expected, there's a chance the invite will not be accepted. The week began with news that the dam had been breached as agreement on the High Seas Treaty was reached. It's taken 10 years of negotiations to get consensus from the United Nations. 30% of the Earth's sea has now been selected to be areas where marine life is protected. Many marine species are hanging by a thread because of fishing pollution and mining the seabed. But the High Seas Treaty is meant to get a grip of problems of saltwater fish having their chips and sharks biting the dust and rays coming to grief, as well as the destruction of the coral reefs. No wonder the room was filled with such emotion when the UN decided to save our oceans. The Russian bullies blitzed Ukraine again as they continue to fail to make real gains. Bakhmut is a city where little remains bar decimated buildings and human remains. In terms of big picture and war strategy, it's not an especially important city. But the fight has raged on for 6 months or more. the longest individual battle of the war. Ukraine takes casualties, but with hardly a flinch. Russians are slaughtered as they take hardly an inch. And any Russian gains are ill-begotten. Their crimes and Ukraine's courage must never be forgotten. The Kremlin gangster government we must dismantle, that worships Stalin and takes on his mantle. Recently there seems to have been a spike in once popular culture now being disliked. The woke world cancelling the original writing of the likes of Roald Dahl and Enid Blyton. Now the James Bond novels are getting a new look in the 70th year since the first 007 book. Ian Fleming's words and attitudes of his time now being covered up like embarrassing crimes, but some from the woke man's acts managed to escape, like Fleming's reference to the sweet tang of rape. Now Glastonbury are renaming their John Peel stage on hearing the late DJ slept with fans underage. The question remains, how should the past be viewed with its out-of-date phrases and bad attitudes? While PC police get hysterical with the historical, the more nostalgic are quite categorical. The past is the past, and we should set it in stone, not sanitize it for snowflakes or have it disowned. Still with snowflakes, Britain had a drop of heavy snow at the week's end as the mercury dropped very low. Of course, people looked to the sky and asked why, especially as February had been so dry, leading to threats of hosepipe bans in July.